Let's go.
You're right there. You got to keep them under control.
Timeout with 3 seconds.
Being on the throne is not just about being the king, it's about being the rival to beat. And you also got to be willing to prove your superiority
That pass was so disrespectful.
to any opponent who aspires to kingship. And that was exactly the situation for Larry Bird in 1986.
I'd much rather guard Michael Jordan than Larry Bird because you have to play the game as a thinker when you're playing him.
The Celtics forward was not only coming off one of the most successful in
That was a really powerful statement. He said he would much rather guard Larry Bird than Michael Jordan. And I can kind of see his point, you know what I mean? Because watching Larry Bird play, he's very unconventional, and like he'll do anything to finish the play, to get a score, whether it's pass it through your legs, whatever he has to do, he'll do it. Versus Michael Jordan, he has that finesse too, but he's also gifted athletically, so he can use brute force. You know what I mean? So and a lot of times you can predict, you may not be able to stop it, but you can predict what he's going to do. Versus Larry Bird's a little bit more unpredictable.
I'd much rather guard Michael Jordan than Larry Bird because you have to play the game as a thinker when you're playing him.
The Celtics forward was not only coming off one of the most successful individual seasons in league history, winning his third consecutive regular season MVP and hoisting the Larry O'Brien while earning his second finals MVP.
I'm really proud to receive this award for the third time.
Yo, that mullet is wild.
Bird was changing the game. The whole conception of the small forward was different after his time in the NBA. But just when he looked like he was the undisputed king, a new lion was coming to the pride. A young Michael Jordan came into the league making a difference right from the start. And from the very first moment, he made it clear to Larry that he wasn't afraid of him at all. The Celtics were still the better team, but MJ put on one of the greatest performances in playoff history against Boston in 1986, making a statement about who was the better player on the hardwood. And from then on, the rivalry burned hotter than ever.
Yo, MJ, just the way he moves, it's like poetry in motion. From the way he walks to the basketball court to the way he dribbles. At least, you know, in my view, I always thought like there's only one MJ, and it's just incredible.
Larry Bird had a mission. For his entire career, he had been the undisputed best player in the NBA. But now, a 23-year-old kid who was averaging 37 points per game was challenging him for the reign of the king of world basketball. The Bird had already proved it all. His legacy was unmatched, but his honor was in jeopardy. And that was something that he wouldn't allow. The reason was simple. Bird was bidding to become the GOAT of basketball. The forward had been breaking every barrier in existence since arriving to the NBA.
He came pretty damn close. You know, Mike is still the king, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? But maybe that's where Michael Jordan got that from. You know, Bird went out on top, I believe. And Michael Jordan did the same thing since, you know, he used to get spanked by Bird.
In 1979, Bird signed a contract with the Celtics to become the highest paid rookie in league history at $650,000 per year. But as soon as he arrived in the NBA, Larry wreaked havoc. He finished
$650,000 a year. Yeah, the money they're making now is crazy.
League history at $650,000 per year.
That's what they're not even driving at half the time to the stadium.
But as soon as he arrived in the NBA, Larry wreaked havoc. He finished fourth in the MVP race during his rookie year. During the next 3 seasons, not only did he win the NBA ring for the first time in 1981, but he also finished second in the MVP race 3 times. And his averages during this stint? 22.6 points, 10.9 rebounds, and 5.7 assists per game. But something happened during the summer of 1983.
That was a double-double.
Bird went from being the second best player in the league to a completely legendary player, and absolutely superior to his eternal rival, Magic Johnson.
One thing I didn't know about Larry Bird was how flashy he was. Like, some of these passes aren't just like great accurate passes. I love his like he seems like he just want to embarrass you when you play against him. You know, he wants to show off, and I like that.
To a completely legendary player, and absolutely superior to his eternal rival, Magic Johnson. Thus began his incredible 3-year stint in which he became one of the greatest players of all time. From 1983 to 1986, Bird achieved 3 NBA MVPs. After winning the 1984 championship and being, for the first time in his career, MVP of the finals, Bird ascended in the NBA Olympus and wrote his name in the history books forever.
See how they rushed the court? That's amazing. They were able to rush the court like that when he won. We'll never see that in sports again, at least in NBA.
During those 3 seasons, Larry averaged 26.2 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 6.7 assists per game, while continuing to be an elite defender, by the way. This was his status just prior to the start of the 1986 playoffs. A versatile forward who was capable of doing everything on the court.
Yeah.
There had never been a big man who had the skills of a perimeter player in traditional basketball until...
And his shot was so vicious. It just seems like everybody fell for that pump fake, because you just see guys like just completely committing to that pump fake.
Capable of doing everything on the court. There had never been a big man who had the skills of a perimeter player in traditional basketball until he came along. And not just because of his iconic 3 shot, becoming one of the first small forwards that played the power forward position to be able to stretch the floor. His incredible passing ability allowed him to become a true leader for those Celtics, both on offense and defense. But in order to win his 3rd ring in 1986, he first had to get past a team with a major stud that was starting to make some noise. And just less than a full year later, it was March 27th, 1987. The Celtics, with a record of 51 wins and 19 losses, were coming off a back-to-back to face a Bulls team with a record of 35 wins and 35 losses. That, by the way, was also coming off a game the night before. Bird was having a pretty good season with averages of 28 points, 9 rebounds, and almost 8 assists per game that allowed him to finish 3rd in the MVP race.
Monster numbers.
While Jordan, who would end up finishing 2nd, was averaging an absurd 37 points per game. The Celtics came out with an unusual starting...
Oh, shout out to Jordan. He said all of them dudes was bums. I'm shooting all the shots. Okay, that's when he didn't trust anybody. He was like, look, we're going to live and die by me because y'all, y'all trash. Y'all out there getting high, doing coke in the locker room. I'm shooting.
While Jordan, who would end up finishing 2nd, was averaging an absurd 37 points per game. The Celtics came out with an unusual starting 5 due to the absence of Dennis Johnson, who was replaced by Jerry Sitching. And playing away from home, they knew it would be a tough game. But right from the first plays of the game, Bird showed what kind of night he was going to have. His off-ball movement was elite, basically, because of his enormous basketball IQ, his fakes. I mean, this was one of the most dangerous men in basketball without the ball in his hands.
Great word. I would say the IQ, I would say Larry Bird is probably the highest IQ NBA player. There's been people up there with, we used to say like Chris Paul, but has he got in the ring? Let me see, who's known for their IQ? Jason Kidd, he got a ring. There's guys that have high IQs that never won, but I'm trying to think of the ones that won. Players like Isaiah Thomas, high IQ, pretty much a lot of point guard, but he's a big man with a high IQ. Tim Duncan also had a high IQ in basketball, but Bird, because he can do everything on the floor, I would say I can't really think of anybody that can surpass him when it comes to that. That's probably why he was so hard to guard, because he was going to outthink you.
That, coupled with the gravity he generated from his mid-range and long-range shooting, was lethal.
Yes.
Plus, he was a typical player who was blessed by the divine touch, okay? But once again, his arsenal from the low post was unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's easy to find samples of his off-ball ability and gravity, as it was often his easiest way to score. But on this day, his mid-range shot was touched by a magic wand. He just couldn't miss, and he was able to abuse it again and again and again.
Mr. Buckets.
Meanwhile, Jordan began to realize the enormous attention he was getting from the Celtics defense, which every time he attempted a drive sent multiple bodies to stop him. But far from getting
They were playing zone.
advantages only without the ball in his hands, Larry was also able to score in ISOs from the low post, a move that decades later, Mavs legend Dirk Nowitzki patented and made his own.
Dirk McGurk.
So the Bulls realized they had no choice but to do what the Celtics did with Jordan, a virtually continuous 2-on-1 when he had the ball in his hands.
But he's an excellent passer.
Bird basically said, you know what? I'm going to hurt them in transition. Thus came the end of the first quarter, in which somehow the Bulls managed to stay close on the scoreboard, trailing by only 1 point, 36-35.
Michael Jordan with the hair.
Bird had a spectacular first quarter in scoring, 20 points, nothing more, nothing less. So he began to take advantage of that extra attention to test his versatility. He was able to transform garbage into gold. Case in point, this loose ball.
Yo, don't be passing me the ball while he was saying transform garbage and they show him passing it to this guy. Transform garbage into gold.
Quarter in scoring, 20 points, nothing more, nothing less. So he began to take advantage of that extra attention to test his versatility. He was able to transform garbage into gold. Case in
It looks like Mikhail.
point, this loose ball, which he turns into a great assist. And if there's one thing you don't want, it's for the guy who's destroying you from mid-range to start showing signs of his playmaking ability. Bird was unleashed, and players like Kevin McHale appreciated it. Even when they didn't count, Larry's passes were simply spectacular.
That was a laser.
You from mid-range to start showing signs of his playmaking ability. Bird was unleashed, and players like Kevin McHale appreciated it.
He looks like a serial killer.
Even when they didn't count, Larry's passes were simply spectacular. No, he really didn't even need to score to be the most impactful player in the game. In some cases, MJ had to defend the Celtics star too, and the size difference played a key role in these situations. But knowing that the half-court offense was very difficult with two defenders on top of him, Bird continued to make use of scoring in transition.
Oh, another thing too is, and this is a little off subject, people say that LeBron is always high IQ. I believe he's high IQ, but I definitely don't think he's one of the highest IQ NBA players ever, only because of all the times where the game was on the line and his high IQ told him to pass it to Boobie Gibson. Okay, when you get fouled every time you go to the paint, all right, where he would just pass the ball or not shoot it. No, I don't call that high IQ. Yes, he has a high IQ, but he's not in the elite category, in my opinion.
And what was more shocking, a player of his size dropping threes like it's nothing. But incredibly, despite Bird's 33 points in the first half, the Bulls managed to go into halftime trailing by only 3 points. Thanks in part to the 16 points MJ had scored during the first 2 quarters, of course. When the third quarter began, Larry kind of relaxed offensively. He decided to use his gravity to try to find better options for his teammates, as he knew he would need one more offensive threat to take the game easily. And stepping up on defense, the Celtics got stops on Jordan that allowed them to get easy baskets
Great D.
on the other end of the court. But Bird continued his playmaker role for most of the rest of the game, as he led his team on
My goodness, it was a bad night for Mike.
defense with actions like this one. He was certainly a player who had no problem getting his hands dirty either. But when Larry attempted a shot during the second half, it was to score. And he kept sending occasional reminders to the Bulls defense. Reminders that one player was not going to be enough to guard him. In front of a United Center packed with more than 18,000 fans, the forward was having a legendary game. The Celtics allowed just 22 points in the third quarter, by
I kind of want to watch this whole game.
the way, and managed to head into the final quarter with a 9-point lead. And after resting for a couple of minutes, Larry continued to do whatever his team needed to do to get the win. These Celtics were good. I mean, like,
And the whole time, I think the most impressive thing about Larry Bird is that he looks like the guy that rotates your tires, all right?
really good. Bird was that piece of the puzzle that served as a wild card, too. That player you could put in any role, in any part of the court, in any situation,
sweet
and
spot.
who was going to be able to generate advantages on his own. And during the last quarter, the tone did not change. Bird continued to abuse from long distance as he had been doing all game.
Bang.
He continued to play the simplest yet most dominant basketball anyone had ever seen. But one of the virtues of genius is to make what seems complicated really easy.
Yeah, and another thing they're not talking about is his ability to move without the ball and get open. It's just beautiful. And catch it in stride and shoot.
You know? And despite the Bulls' final scare, who managed to cut the deficit from 11 points to 4, the Celtics defense stepped up to close the game. Bird did it. Months after MJ scored 63, the forward only had to play 100% for one half to show him that if he wanted to, he could do it too. 33 points in the first half, 41 in the game. That went down in history as one of the greatest displays of ego any player in the league could perform. The difference is that Larry's ego also made his teammates better.
All right, this announcer's a little biased, all right? This is a young Mike, okay? We know this is Bird's video, but don't try to downplay the greatness of the Skywalker.
Weeks later, the Celtics met the Bulls again in the first round of the playoffs, and the result was the same as last year. Boston managed to advance by a score of 3-0. Yeah, so 6-0 in playoff games against Jordan's Bulls. That's the record that is stuck in history. When they met, Larry
Pump fake 5 times. He doesn't care. He's going to get it off.
Celtics were always better. So good that not even a superhero performance could stop them. And so Larry Bird, along with the Pistons of Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer, became the thorn in MJ's side that he really could never get rid of. Bird did not win the ring that season. Magic Johnson's Lakers did. The other side of the three-headed monster that dominated basketball worldwide. But even if he didn't win the championship, Larry did world basketball a favor. He taught Jordan that he still had a long way to reach his full potential. He taught him that scoring isn't always enough, and that he needed to become a leader capable of bringing out the best in his teammates. And without the lesson that the greatest player in Boston Celtics history, with Bill Russell's permission, taught MJ, it is likely that basketball history would have been completely different. And Jordan and Bird's rivalry continued to cause a stir in the league, but they never met again in the playoffs.
See, the way the documentary tells it is that I'm pretty sure he learned it from this too, but he was still making those mistakes. They always say that it was his coach, I forget his name, his coach, the Zen Master, that he was responsible for convincing Jordan to start passing the ball and trusting his teammates, But 2 things can be right. He probably learned it from there, but when Larry Bird retired, Jordan was still ball hogging, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Larry would go on to post a 17-11 record against Michael's Bulls during his career until a serious heel injury followed by back problems greatly shortened his career. Injuries that not only brought about the end of the Boston Celtics dynasty, but also sent them into a sinkhole from which they could not climb out of until 20 years later. And we all know that history is written by the winners, and very few people have won more than Jordan. And Larry Bird has kind of gone down in history as underrated compared to Jordan. But He was a forward who changed the traditional definition of basketball.
Yeah, I was part of that underration. I'm not going to lie. All right, I know it's not a word, but it's going to be a word today. I did not know Larry Bird was this great, this flashy, this smart. I knew he was a legend. And I knew he's a Boston legend. He's a Hall of Famer. I knew that. But when you watch the highlights and actually see it, it completely changed my perspective.
From which they could not climb out of until 20 years later. And we all know that history is written by the winners, and very few people have won more than Jordan. And Larry Bird has kind of gone down in history as underrated compared to Jordan. But he was a forward who changed the traditional definition of basketball and who starred in one of the most competitive eras ever. And let's not forget that from 1983 to 1986, there was not a single player on the planet able to face him. No one. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought down in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bird was never on my radar when it comes to like my top 5 NBA players. But since seeing this, I've definitely added him in my top 5. My list goes as Jordan number 1, LeBron number 2. I'm going to go Shaq number 3, Bird number 4. And the only reason why I got Shaq over Bird is because Shaq was just an unstoppable force. Right? He was an unstoppable force. He was lazy, but he was an unstoppable force. Give me any guard with him. Give me Wade with him. Give me Kobe with him. Give me any superstar guard with Shaq. Shaq is going to get you a championship ring at one point of his career. I don't care. So will Bird. That's why I still got him in my top 5. But Shaq, and then I got Kobe 5th. I got Kobe number 5. And the only reason why I got Kobe over Magic is because I didn't watch Magic play. I'm gonna watch some highlights, but from the highlights that I've seen, I just love watching Kobe play basketball. So it's more of an art thing for me. I'm not saying that Kobe's better than Magic, but I would pick Kobe, and the same thing for Kareem. I don't have Kareem in my top 5 because I haven't seen like an actual game with Kareem or watched any highlights, but I will be doing that on this channel. I'll be discovering a lot of greats. So if you guys want to see that, just click the like button, leave a comment, let me know if I should continue doing these type of videos if you guys enjoy it, and suggest what I should check out in the comment section. I'll be reading it of what players you guys think I should look into. But yeah, I don't have Kareem, so yeah, that's mine. It's Shaq. Oh, no, I got it backwards. Jordan, LeBron, Shaq, Bird, Kobe. Okay. No Curry. I love Curry. Curry's in my top 10, but he's not in my top 5. I love defensive players, so that's just my thing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys for watching. Peace.